Welcome to the BYOD podcast, Bring Your Own Directions. My name is Björn, co-CEO of Resolution, and in this show where every guest sets their own path, sharing insights and ideas about Agile topics and the Atlassian ecosystem. Proudly sponsored by NASA, not another stand-up app. The Atlassian Marketplace app that makes Agile ceremonies, stand-ups, and planning sessions not just efficient, but also enjoyable. So please stand by. So, welcome back. Today with me is Marion from SoftComply, and I'm really happy that she's joining me today in the podcast. So, let her activate for the stage. Hey, Marion, how are you?
Hello, Björn. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, not bad, not bad. So, I fight it a little bit with the technical stuff in the studio, but I'm feeling good.
Good.
So, it looks like you have a sunny day in Munich, or?
No.
No, it's you have just
No.
you have just a good light.
We have to wait for like a few more months.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's I mean, we had a short preparation call 2 days ago, and we also talked about the weather. And you started the sentence that it was maybe the wrong decision to move to Munich from the weather perspective. So tell us a little bit more. Tell us a little bit more about what was your journey so far, why you are in Munich, what you're doing at SoftComply. So introduce a little bit yourself, and I will jump in with some questions to it.
Happily. Thanks, Björn. What am I doing in Munich? I really don't know. I mean, it has been for several years now that I've been in Munich, and like we said, I think I missed the kind of the perception of that you should move south of the Alps, not north of the Alps, to get good weather. So Italy definitely would have been better. But
they have also
before
amazing
Munich,
food, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and wine.
For sure.
So before Munich, I was in Dublin. And before Dublin, I was in Luxembourg. And then I was in Finland, but actually I'm from Estonia. So SoftComply is actually an Estonian company. And the idea started about 9 years ago when I was working in academia for medical device regulations. And of course, as always in academia, we want to do like make the world a better place and solve all the problems in one project. And that's exactly what we try to do in Ireland and in the academic project that I was at. When I realized that actually maybe this is, I mean, there was an applied project that we were looking at MedTech startups and helping them to get compliant quickly, to get the products out on the market. But we were doing a little bit too much. It wasn't really helpful in the end, I would say, the project that we had in mind. And I wanted to do something to really help the MedTech startups, to provide them with tools that would speed up compliance. And I stepped out of academia, where I'd been for quite some time by that time already, to make a little bit of a difference, to provide something tangible to startups. And our goal in SoftComply was at the very beginning quite an altruistic goal to help MedTech startups who have very little money to get compliance automated and affordable and integrated to a software platform that they have already been using. So not a standalone platform, not a consultant that usually takes a lot of time, but to really provide them tools with onboarding that would get them compliant faster, get them through the audit quicker, and get them through the audit quicker, and of course then to get them put their products on the market so that the products ultimately would help us as patients or users of these medical devices. And that has always been our goal for just to help innovation and to help in safety critical domains particularly.
Okay, that's
so maybe I can come back to Munich. Actually, there was a reason why I'm in Munich, is that there is a lot of MedTech, of course, in this area. DACH region known for like a lot of medical devices.
Yeah, that's super interesting because you also mentioned a lot of words where I wouldn't combine or align this with compliance? Automate, quick, integrated, cheap. So a lot of bold goals. I mean, I'm not really working in compliance. I had the pleasure to deal with a lot of customers where I always ended up in contract negotiations, which are somehow aligned to compliance stuff. And it ended up in 2 years negotiations, and then we agreed on something, and everybody was happy. But that's so my first feeling when somebody says compliance is, okay, can I leave the room, please? I want to talk about something different. But we talked already on some conferences or also Atlassian events, and it was your approach was always interesting to listen, because I mean you combine now exactly stuff, automate, make it affordable, also quicker, and we all know nowadays we are living in a relatively regulated world. So you have it also in politics. Everybody is talking about bureaucracy, and it's too much, but there is somehow a reason for that. So what is your personal passion on it? Is it really, yes, I love compliance, or what's your passion with a SoftComply, and how has it started?
Sorry about that, Eddie. That's exactly like you said about the doorbell.
But the dog is listening really good, so I need to say it now 10 times.
All right, but sorry. So can you repeat the last question?
Yeah. So what is compliance your passion? Or I mean, you said you're coming from academic. You went into the medical startup world and help them to get their products out faster, to make these, or to help them to make these product compliant, that they fit to the regulations and so on. But compliance is always somehow a super busy word. It's a huge topic. It's difficult to find people who have passion for compliance. So what is your magic that you are passionate about compliance?
Actually, it's a good question, because I don't think many people are passionate about compliance as such. There is something else that they are passionate about. Is it privacy or security? And in my case, I think for as long as I remember, I have been interested in healthcare, in medicine. I never went down that route. I went to software engineering instead. But now that I'm working closely with medical device companies, it is as close as I can get probably to healthcare. And for me, it has always been very interesting to see the innovation coming out of software-related medical devices, or software as medical devices, they call it. So medical devices that are wholly made of software. And of course, now with AI-enabled medical devices, this is even more of those innovations coming out. And with that, of course, like on the compliance side, of course, we want everybody to be safe. So somewhere down the road, when I was studying software engineering and safety critical software engineering, I went down the road of regulations. I was also part of International Standards Organization for software engineering, and to try to understand how the standards are made, what are the best practices, what is the goal of following them, and how much better do they make the world if companies are following them, for example, or how much safer or more secure their software is. And from there, I got to medical devices and software in the medical devices, and it kind of clicked that this is actually a really interesting world, because obviously when you're in a hospital, you don't want the medical device. You take it for granted that medical devices that are in the hospital that you are hooked onto, they are working without a problem, right?
But these, better, yeah.
Right? And I think this is something that for me is always interesting, like the healthcare aspect of it, like what could potentially go wrong, what can we do to make it better, to diagnose diagnose diseases faster, to be more precise in these diagnoses. I mean, of course, there's a lot about side effects and having to ultimately understand what different treatments can do together to one patient based on the genome of that patient. So there is a lot there that is going on that I think is extremely interesting. And when we talk about safety and security, the more we talk about, of course, software, connected devices, And AI in the devices, we get to the world of course, data privacy, data protection, and the security and safety of the systems. So I think this is a whole big world of, like you say, compliance is a lot. Like everybody has their own opinion when you say compliance of what we're talking about, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
is it just some, not maybe that necessary a regulation, but I'm mostly talking about it from the point of view of safety and security of complex software systems. So we get to the digital regulation, really, that we were discussing about also this workshop or the talk here. And I was saying that deregulation now is a huge topic, right? Like Trump is introducing it now to everywhere that, US has to be more innovative, therefore less regulations have to be in place. While EU is trying to say that, regulations are there to protect us and to keep our data private. And then, of course, China. So China is our state-driven regulation, that basically the regulations are there to make sure that the state has a part of the innovation.
Yeah. I mean, it's you said one point is that a lot of people, or also a lot of organizations, have a different understanding of compliance. I think for a lot of people, it's just getting a certification like a SOC 2 or ISO certification or California Privacy Act, GDPR, you can name it, whatever they need. From our experience, I mean, that was a little bit the beauty in the Atlassian marketplace the last 10, 11, 12 years, that yes, in some cases it was necessary to have all these certifications, but in 98% of the cases it was not necessary. So I see it also on our customer base. We have tons of customers. We created great products, but so far no customer said to us, okay, you need to have now the a SOC 2 certification or something like that. So this world is now changing. So Atlassian is going in a direction that in their new marketplace partner program, if you want to be certified or if you want to have the badge platinum or gold or whatever, you need to have an ISO certification or the SOC 2 and so on. Also more and more customers requesting it. So you posted, I think 2 days ago on LinkedIn, that security risks grow much faster at the moment, and it's really hard to manage them without the right tools. So do you see at the moment a trend? So when we pick up your point with United States promoting at the moment deregulation, but at the same time we see the bubble of the Atlassian marketplace, and I assume it's the same in other marketplaces or other industries, that there is more and more the demand for smaller companies and smaller solutions to fit in these certifications, which means they need to start to think about compliance. They need to start to think about regulations. Do you see a different trend here, industry against politics?
I think so. I think for a long time, like you said, Atlassian marketplace partners have been, they've been fine. They just, like we also do, we tell the customer that, you can rely on the trust center in Atlassian, because Atlassian has done a great job on different certifications that they have acquired down the road, right? I mean, there are still a few that they're working on. FedRAMP, there is, for automotive, there is 26262 that basically requires Atlassian to say how Jira was built so that they could use it. So things that are very kind of impossible to do. But
they can't find the person anymore who knows it, or
I mean, and it's funny that it's like OEMs, the suppliers of the big manufacturers, that they can actually still use Atlassian, and I think there is a lot there that has been done. But when we talk about deregulation, I think this is exactly the right attitude of, like you were saying, that okay, if we regulate too much, there will not be innovation, because we have made it too hard for companies to comply with the regulations. So only the big five can do it, right? It's a little bit like AI. And then China comes and says, well, actually, we can do it cheaper, like DeepSeek. So now everybody's like, okay, so, I mean, let's maybe not talk about data privacy here with DeepSeek, but if you just think of the innovations in the AI models, this is pretty amazing that they have done. So opening up the AI world to the small guys as well, not just the big companies, right? So there is definitely this politics goes hand in hand with the regulations, I would say, and there is a lot that that Europe is really good at. I mean, the fact that they are protecting the private data of users and making the platforms or tool developers be the ones who have to take action and say, okay, this is where your data is. Do you want to share it? Do you not want to share it? So being more transparent, which is basically the democratic values, I would say. But for sure, that would also mean that the smaller players will have to become more compliant and will have to show that they are working on this. So the data is more secure, and the big partners can also rely on these smaller software developers. So for sure, it is going to change, and for sure, we have to pay that in mind as well as smaller partners we are.
Yeah, I mean it can also create complete new opportunities or business cases. I mean, when we look a little bit backwards, GDPR in German, it was Datenschutzgrundverordnung as a beautiful word. So nobody took really care of it till it happened. Then everybody was confused the first year. Okay, what does it mean now? Is it just the name, the first name, last name, gender, age, or is it also the IP address which need to be secured? And people started to learn what the difference is: personal data and person-related data, and so on. So you see, I'm way too deep in the topic.
No, but I mean, it's a very good point, because what EU is doing is that it gives this huge directive and says, by this date, you all have to be compliant with this directive, because this is now going to be a law. Now, every country in EU will implement a version of this law. And Germany is known to add a little bit more on top of that directive, so making it a little bit harder. And then everybody is looking at Germany going, like, okay, if we do kind of the same as Germany is doing, then we are, all right. And I think this is something that makes, we always say in medical device world now that it used to be US that is more regulated and harder to get to, and now with the new medical device regulation in Europe or EU, and also the AI Act that is very generic and still missing a lot of guidance for who is going to audit companies with AI. This is actually becoming different. Like Europe is becoming the overregulator now, and we are always afraid that this will in the end impact the innovation. So we don't want to kill the smaller companies where a lot of innovation could come from, so that there will be only some big companies left. So there is definitely that fear of big laws being created, and then every country having their own law with their own little details here and there that companies need to then comply with and adhere to.
Okay. So then, before I can understand how SoftComply can help customers with that, let me ask another question to that. So you mentioned AI now several times. So I've also, with our team and with other peering points, a lot of discussions. Okay, do you really believe that somebody can regulate how AI is used and so on? Because the world is changing dramatically at the moment. So when you bring it down to some point, so in the last 100 years, we as humans learn when you see a picture, it was reality because somebody took a photo. When you see, when you hear the voice of somebody on a WhatsApp voice message or whatever, you can be sure it's a person. When you see a video of somebody is doing somebody, you can be sure this happened. So this has completely changed. Yeah, not anymore. So this has completely changed. In parallel, I think 2 days ago in Germany, the movie industry created the first framework agreement. It's in general where they define what are the minimum salaries for actors and so on. And that's the first agreement in Germany where there is a paragraph that when an actor played for a series, whatever, and the movie company decides, okay, I replace the actor with an AI model for the next episode, then the actor need to be paid for that. So first point, not really regulations, but to bring some rules in it, how to use it. So what is your view at the moment on this everyday new stuff AI thing? And we mentioned US, we mentioned China, Europe, a lot of different opinions. Definitely also the struggle is when we in Europe give us a lot of self-regulations on how to use AI. Why should China or US take care of it? So, so what is your view? Do you think we as humans will handle this AI properly in the next couple of years? It's a big question, but do you think we have a chance for that?
I think we do. I think we do, and I think we can't go back, really. I mean, we can't say that, okay, this is that it. We are not going to use AI. Like, this is not going to happen, in my mind, at least. I love innovation. Like I said, I think it is. Of course, we're gonna make a lot of mistakes. I'm pretty sure, and there is a lack of guidance. Yeah. We are humans, right? I mean, even the smart ones forget that some of the regulations are there for helping them, but in AI, in healthcare, AI can make amazing things. Like, I think the older I get, the more I feel that a lot of things that we do, the knowledge should be there somewhere in this, in the central repository that everybody could tap into and not have to invent the wheel every time when they have a question. And AI is exactly that in my mind. Like, if you could put like the knowledge of millions of doctors into a model and get that diagnose or help diagnose a disease, I think we are so much better off. And this is something that I'm really passionate about, that we could use AI in healthcare to help people early on, especially in cancer diagnosis, which is very, very important that we catch it early, right? So if we could do that, if we could improve it, if we could fasten that, and that would make a huge difference in the lives of so many people in the world. And of course, we're going to do it wrong, and I'm pretty sure we're going to make a lot of mistakes in getting it right and getting the right data being used in training the algorithms in different models, in overseeing that the outcomes are there, that it is important for the patients. The clinical evidence is there that it actually improves the outcomes of that, whatever the medical device is used for. I'm sure we are getting it wrong for many times, but in the end, I think the idea is amazing. And if we can find the conglomeration of experts that can help understand and evaluate and validate these new innovations, I'm sure there will be a lot of amazing stuff happening. So at the moment AI is, of course, already in medical devices, but it requires oversight of a person, which is also something that is like debatable. Like, how can one person be smarter than outsmart the thousands or millions of whose knowledge has been implemented into that algorithm? But nevertheless, it requires some oversight, so it wouldn't make a completely, nonsensical, mistakes. And the algorithms in a lot of times are actually frozen, so it doesn't learn. It's not the real AI that is, constantly learning from what is going on. So the inputs are given, and then the algorithm is frozen, and that is then used in the diagnosis, for example, because we need to make sure that the input data is valid and validated, because we don't want to have anybody else putting in any potentially risky or unsafe data there.
Yeah. So it's this AI, and especially in the medical sector. I was last year in November in Lisboa Web Summit. So, and I mean, more than half of the startups there did something with AI. And then from this group, the biggest portion was medical stuff. So I saw minimum 10 apps which were doctor AI in a specific reason, or it was more in the direction of accelerating research, medical research, like you said, research for cancer diagnosis and so on. And I think in the last couple of months, there were a couple of news that this already accelerated the research massively. The interesting point there was, I mean, we are living in Germany. I'm in Berlin, you in Munich. So we have access to our medical treatments relatively easy. Yeah. So, and the discussion what I had in Lisboa with most of the people was that, no, they're focusing on a complete different market. So they are focusing on a market in Africa, for example. So where you potentially don't have access to a doctor. So when you have something on your arm or a wound or whatever, it's much better to make a picture out of it and to let guess an AI what it is. And then maybe the AI says, okay, you should go to a doctor immediately, or it's nothing super urgent. You can stay with it. Next week it will be better. So now in the Western world, we are having all these regulations and so on. So when we go to more evolving markets or countries and continents where regulations are on a complete different level. But now a lot of companies also going in this direction. Hey, let's help them with AI. Do you see
testing?
Testing? Yeah, it could be also testing. Yeah, so I think that's a good point. Somebody mentioned it as well. So hey, we can start or we can launch our product in Africa much faster as we can here, and then we can learn there. Which is where you can put an ethical question mark on it or not on this. But the interesting point here is, and that comes then to my question, and then we can also move a little bit how SoftComply can help with that. When you have now these aspects, my follow-up question to them was, okay, how can you earn money then? So because you're creating an app, you train a large language model, and so on, and your focused market is Africa. And then the answer was from them, in some cases, advertisement. So it means they're dealing again with data, so medical data of persons and so on, which is a complete new level of, I don't know if it's a new level. I don't know what Meta and so on knows from me. But this opens up complete new data sets when we deal with AI in the future. So do you guess this will make regulations even more important then? So again, against the trend of deregulation, because we have now a powerful tool like AI, we can access complete new markets, we can access complete new data without also knowledge. So do you, what's my question? Yeah, do you think that this will impact regulations also?
It already is actually, because a lot of healthcare data that is provided as input to algorithms is actually biased. So the population where it's taken is usually male, white, population, and it is not usable in some of the countries that you mentioned. So collecting data from there is definitely needed to be able to spread and generalize the results and the output of the models. So this is definitely one of the reasons why there is more data being gathered there. And there is also, of course, a lot of regulation going into looking at this data that is used for training algorithms. So FDA is already on top of that, and the data gathering the different types of data and the data quality is really, really the key there that they look at. So that you need to provide FDA basically the data that you used in training the algorithm. So this is already existing, this regulation, because this is hugely important for the healthcare outputs. Yeah.
So how does SoftComply now come into the game? I mean, now we talked about how you went to the medical area, also the diagnosis area, but you also said, okay, you studied software topics and security. So you have founded SoftComply now. So what is SoftComply doing?
Yeah. So when we started, we wanted to provide basically, the most important thing that we want to provide, what is really different from what software guys do, is safety risk management. To make the software engineer understand that if their software fails, that could actually have consequences on the patient as a user of the software system. So this has been a very interesting kind of journey, because I had to train software engineers who said, yeah, but my code never fails. Like, what are you talking about? And if it does, it's like, what's the problem? To make them understand that if this system is used in, let's say, a dialysis machine and it's going too fast or in the wrong direction, that what could potentially go wrong. So these kind of like safety and security risk management aspects were the first ones that we wanted to really bring to market. And as such, we came out with the risk management solution on Jira. And 9 years ago, we kind of took a risk going with Atlassian, because we weren't quite sure if regulated industries will start using Atlassian. At that time, it was still kind of, among regulated industries, it was still kind of viewed as like, oh, this is this agile software tool that we are, in a different industry, we can't use this. And over the years, it has, like now, of course, Atlassian is all about enterprises, and they are working a lot in the different certifications to get government offices and different regulated industries use their platform. And so we did the right thing, I think, on choosing to go with Atlassian. And the idea was then that there's a term in safety critical industries that's called safety by design or security by design. And the idea is to really have the thought of safety and security at the desk of the developers, rather than a quality manager or a quality management department somewhere in the basement of this office building taking care of the quality of that software system. So safety and security should be a part of the software itself, not an afterthought. So there is no better way to put it as part of, take it as a part of everyday work of software developers than putting it in the tools that they use. So having it in the tool set that they use every day. So that's where the idea came from, to integrate with Jira and create it on top of Jira. And at the beginning, it was really, like I said, the idea that the small guys, the 2-3 people companies could use Jira because it was nice and affordable. I mean, still nice and affordable for the small guys. And they could then take an app that helps them in preparing for the audit, because the alternative is a standalone solution that is about 100 times more expensive. A consultant that is also the same, kind of several times more expensive and slower. And instead of that, help them with onboarding, give them templates ready for different types of risk management, be it safety and medical devices, be it organizational risk management or strategy risk management, or be security. So different security risk frameworks have been implemented in the tool. So this is the kind of the idea, to really speed up, get them away from standalone or even manual, like Excel-based risk management, which is not sustainable because you need to trace things back and forth and you can't do it manually. So that's the idea. And from there, we went, of course, to quality management, document management, and then to the fun thing of validation of software tools, which is basically showing that Confluence, for example, does what it's supposed to do without problems. So we have also automated validation app for Confluence Cloud. So runs on the instance of customers Confluence. And if the auditor comes in and says, are your software tools validated, is Confluence validated and tested periodically, regularly, then we have the solution there. So once a week, you can run complete test of Confluence and show it to the auditor with a validation documentation that here you are. We have everything tested and everything runs as supposed.
So, so you mentioned that your software has input a lot of frameworks. Is it more the niche frameworks for really specialized use cases like medical devices, automotive, whatever? Or is it also helpful when a company wants to achieve the ISO 27001 or the SOC 2? So also these broad general certifications and regulations?
Yep.
Okay.
So we have both. So we have medical device risk management. We have 27001. We also created something that is like a little database inside or repository inside our risk management tool that actually has controls from different security frameworks. So 27001 has a list of controls that need to be used. And based on that, you can generate your statement of applicability. And we have that inside our risk management tool that helps then companies to pick the controls and link it to their risks and assets that are linked, of course, to assets. And you can keep your assets in the repository as well. So it's like a poor man's assets. But
okay,
it comes with controls from NIST and FDA cybersecurity framework, from NVCGs and different frameworks that you can put, and you can create your own ones, of course, as well, on top of that.
Okay. So is it, I mean, at the moment in the Atlassian ecosystem, Vanta is relatively prominent because they have a partnership with Atlassian as a marketplace vendor. It's very often at the moment your first choice to start the journey for getting the certification for a SOC 2 or whatever. But Vanta on some point stops relatively quick with their tool. So we are also using Vanta for our certification. So means they provide also the regulations. I can connect it to my AWS, to my Office 365, blah, blah, blah. They're loading a lot of stuff. And then I get beautiful task lists, what I need to do and where I need to create a rule or a manual or whatever. And later I need to prove that I informed all the employees that they should use a VPN when they have access to infrastructure, whatever. So, but Vanta is not helping developers with their own product. So it's more for me as an organization, as a resolution to be compliant, to fit to these regulations. But it's not really helping me when I create new products that these products will also fit in these regulations. Is this the gap what you're solving?
Yeah, I mean, we started off with exactly that during the development of a software system, you think about security and safety right away when you start, and the regulated industries normally know that. But then we had these requests of like, okay, but we need to do security for the whole organization, so also for NIS2 or NIST or CVSS, and then we thought, okay, well, we can put this in there as well, because actually from the risk management point of view, it doesn't really differ that much. The central part of risk management is actually a risk assessment model. It's the model that you have to create first in understanding how you rate a risk. And in the regulated industries, there is a term that is the acceptability of risk, the acceptable level of risk. Like, when do you feel that, okay, this risk is critical? I mean, kills patients or serious injuries for a patient is obviously a critical or catastrophic risk. And then medium ones, and that the medium and the critical ones need to be mitigated. So there is a whole kind of philosophy around that you have to first identify a risk, and you say that, okay, this is critical, and then you mitigate it, and then you assess it again with a mitigation in effect. And you can then say, okay, this is not anymore critical. We have lowered it to, acceptable level. We are somewhere in the medium now. So the risks never cease to exist. There are always risks around us, and you have to take care of them. And you can't just say, okay, done, delete. There is no such thing in risk management, actually. So you always have these risks. And you identify the risk, you mitigate the risk, you assess it again, sometimes more than once, because there is also post-market risks that come back from the customer when they say that, okay, this actually doesn't work and this produces a risk. Then you need to go back and do the risk assessment again and mitigate it again. So there is a whole life cycle of risks. And when we look at the cybersecurity risks, it's the same thing, right? I mean, there are risks that you know that you have, that you can mitigate, and then the risks that may come without you, being maybe thinking about it first. So these controls that the frameworks have also makes you think that, okay, oh, right, so there are additional risks that I should take care of, probably because there are controls that match them.
Yeah. I mean that's interesting. I think the continuous part of it is relatively new or unknown or definitely in my peering point. So because also from my experience, it was, these certifications, you need to recertify every 2 years. So then it was a busy time before the auditor is coming in. So you're fixing all your things and the auditor is coming in, you have your bid, and then you say task done. Okay, now let's go back to work. And you're absolutely right about it. It's a continuous thing, what need to be implemented in the workflows and processes, how you create a product or a service, whatever. But at the same time, you somehow need to manage that not every employee need to read 2,000 pages of regulations and need to understand it. So
absolutely.
Interesting.
I mean, this is another thing that in automating, it helps that, for example, in our tool that we not only have a risk management app that kind of supports different frameworks, but what we did was that we brought a spreadsheet view into Jira, a table, because a lot of risk managers are using Excel. And when they go to another tool, they go like, yeah, but I miss my spreadsheet view. Like, I want to have these columns and then the lines. And we did that. We created a multi-sheet table inside Jira. I mean, you can use it for any Jira issues, but we kind of thought that, okay, we'll make a templates that look exactly like what they would use in Excel, but it's all in Jira, and it is nice and kind of easy to work with. And in there, you can also, of course, assign your risk reviewers and risk owners, and you can set the time when they need to review these risks again. So everybody has automatically the assignment of, okay, this is my task today. I had to go back and look at the risk, so that you don't forget
as a recurring assignment.
Exactly. Exactly.
It.
So that not all people need to be involved in that, but the ones who are developing this device, so they're developing the system, then of course they are there. They have to be involved.
I found it funny, and what you explained before, that your quality and assurance people are sitting in the basement. So normally these are the developers in all these pictures. When people paint an office building, where the developers, from your perspective, it's a quality assurance.
Maybe there is one lower level, like there is the software guys in the basement, and then there is the lower level basement. That's the quality team.
I think in last year on Team 24 in Las Vegas, it was the first time that Atlassian showed these the raw office building, and they said, okay, developers are sitting in the top floor. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about your team. That's a good trigger point. So you mentioned in the beginning, you are from Estonia. SoftComply is also an Estonian company. But we don't know both for some reasons. You are in Munich. So how's it working? How big is a team? What is your daily workflow with your team?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all remote for me, and we are 10 people. I'm sitting in Munich. Our chief regulatory officer is sitting in Dublin. It's actually Italian who is in Dublin. So I wish I was in Italy and he's in Dublin.
Because of the good Irish food.
And weather.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the company is in Estonia also because it is so easy to start a company in Estonia. So I was living in Dublin when I founded the company in Estonia. It took me 2 days online, everything online. So that's how easy it is. And of course, I mean, we can talk about that. Why is it so easy, and how we kind of skip the entire kind of period in Estonia of doing business any other way than digital, because that's like...
I think Estonia is an amazing example. I saw 2 documentations about general government interactions and how they work as a private person, but also when you own your company and so on. And I think that the most amazing example goes a little bit off topic, but they compared the German process when you get a baby, how to apply that you are now off for a year for the parents' money, what you get, and so on. It's a complicated process in Germany, so you need. Well, it's so close to need a consultant for it, and then they showed the Estonian process for it, and they said, no, it's relatively easy because the hospital knows that there's a new baby, they have your name, and it's fully automated. So it's fully automated that you are now off, and here is your parental leave money, and so on. And there is no need for some activities from the parents. And I thought, okay, that makes somehow sense. So I definitely believe these 2 days for founding a company in Estonia.
It's a completely integrated system in this government kind of services level. So the same with tax declaration, that you actually get it and it's already pre-filled, and you only need to sign it. If there's anything that need to be edited, of course you can do that, but it just needs a signature.
Oh, I need to do the taxes for the last 4 years still, but okay, that's a different topic.
As my good friend in the medical device industry here in Munich says, you need to keep in mind, we're only 1 million people. So every time when somebody says, yeah, but Estonia, then we very often forget that we actually, as a country, the population is smaller than Munich city. So it is easier to turn things around. Of course, we had the chance, of course, 30 years ago to start from complete scratch. Like we threw out everything that, Soviet Union had, and started from scratch there and created our own system. And of course, at that time already, we could do it digitally. So there's a big advantage there. And of course, the other reason why our team is in Estonia is that I studied and I taught in a university in Estonia. So that's where I found my CTO for SoftComply, who I was supervising for his thesis. and then he gathered the development team around him in Estonia. So and it's, although we work primarily in English, then I think there is something that you can very quickly say in your own language when you need to. Like it's kind of takes away the kind of anything that you understand much quicker, and you can speak much clearer, I would say, in your own language. So that definitely helped as well. But otherwise, we are remote. We are working on Zoom calls most of the time, and and the developers have, of course, stand-ups in Estonia, and they are in the office every other day. So the team decided themselves that they want to get together every other day. And if something changes there, then they can, of course, use Slack and discuss the when is somebody in the office.
So that's a nice trigger for the next chapter of the podcast here. I sent you a survey in the preparation and asked a couple of questions, mostly focused on stand-ups. Your first answer was then, okay, I'm not doing stand-ups, but my team is doing it. We said, okay, let's mix it a little bit, and what also your observations are, how useful the stuff is, and so on. But you also told me in the preparation already some interesting highlight stories about your meeting culture and meeting behaviors. So let me quickly share the how's it called, survey results. So and I, like always, I just pick one or two of them. So the questions, or the first group of questions, mostly focus on preparation of meetings, so journaling and so on. And we discussed it already with the other guests of the podcast, and there are complete different opinions about it. And you had two things here which are super interesting. So for you said you strongly agree that your communication is in a concise and engaging way. And at the same time, you also say you focus on the relevance of the update of the teammates and where you can help and so on. How do you manage this with these just Zoom environments? And especially when your team is, as I understood, is in the office, so means they have somehow a benefit. They have, in some cases, closer ways. So how do you make sure that you are part of the meetings, that you have all the discussions on the same level and so on? What is your superpower here?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I miss being there myself. So I do. I mean, I know that there are a lot of companies who say that if somebody's on Zoom, everybody should be on Zoom, but I don't want to take it away from people who actually could be there in face to face with each other, because I think there's a lot of value in being there and having joking around and kind of having a little bit of a banter. I would say this is extremely important for team spirit, and I don't really want to take that away. And I kind of like to the point of compliance and the passion. I mean, even when we work in the compliance space, our developers sometimes still are not too passionate about compliance, right? So
I totally cannot understand this.
So I do try to kind of bring in some jokes and some relevant stories, incidents, accidents that have happened that are actually happening around us in the world, like crashes that recently in DC, for example, or I mean things that are really relevant to our customers as well. So to make this connection between the development of what they're doing every day to why they are doing it and how important it is actually to the lives around us. So I don't know why I said I communicate in a concise way, because I don't know if I do, but I try to at least be engaging.
I mean, that's good. I can also send the survey to your team, and then we can judge on their answers. But that's an interesting point with these. So means you are also the source of, I name it outside stories for the moment. So it means compliance regulations and so on. You can open every day the newspaper and something is going on. So it means to keep somehow the level of information here be relatively hard. So it means you are also a little bit the source of truth for them for actual trends, you said accidents and so on, which are interesting for them to somehow open up their mind, what's going on in the compliance world, etc. So is this your preparation, some cases in meetings as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that always is in the back of my mind is that because we have a lot of different products, I think we have about 10 apps at the moment on Marketplace, and the goal is to see if nobody's working alone too much, because that is something that might demotivate people. So trying to see if everybody is doing okay. So before a meeting, just to kind of make sure that I understand where everybody is mentally and emotionally, so that you can better kind of see how the help is needed and how we can get, like the last question, like how to get the help that is needed to the teammates. So nobody is kind of feeling left behind, I would say.
Okay, cool. Active listening. I mean, that was also with the previous guests. The answers were very often relatively same, but you are a little bit outstanding here. I mean, the graphic looks more dramatic as it is because the scale is a little bit weird. So it's all about statistics and how you make it. So your answer is different on the point that you strongly agree and that you listen to your colleagues and avoid multitasking. And we all know how it is. So you are sitting in Munich. I have the same when I'm in the home office. So I have my Zoom, I have my super huge screen. So, and I can easily have 10 different apps open. So how do you focus on exactly this, and how do you engage with your colleagues that they do the same?
Yeah, I think multitask. I have two teenage daughters, right? And I think multitasking is a complete myth. And even though
It's
they
a
are
lie.
daughters, and like it's a lie. And I mean, there's a lot of like women can multitask and men can't. And actually, I don't think anybody can really multitask. I mean, we can, but we don't then do anything properly. And because we have many apps and we have the developer team, usually the couple of them in one, like developing or improving one app, that is so easy that when somebody's talking about what they have been doing or they are planning to do this week, that the other team switches off and starts working already on their stuff or preparing on what they will say. And I think what we have now is this agreement that if we have a team meeting, if everybody is there, and I mean, everybody is there except me and our chief regulatory officer who is in Dublin, that the only computer that is allowed in the meeting room is the one that kind of takes the conference call. And no phones, no other computers are allowed. And the reason is exactly that there will be no distraction, and we would keep everybody listening. It's just 1 hour in a week that we do that. And the rest of the time we do just one-on-ones or, 2-3 people max in a call whenever is needed. But this is the only time when everybody knows what everybody is doing, because the problem is not the problem. The reason is actually that our apps, although there are 10 of them, they form two bigger solutions. And these solutions are both in the compliance space. And normally our clients are using both. So they are related to each other a lot. And the problems that one has or one's customer has is normally also somewhat related to what the other apps and solution is doing. So there is this need to have knowledge about what the team is doing and what everybody is working on. And like I said, I'm very much into this. Like, we have a lot of knowledge. We should share it more. And I think we would all be smarter if we knew, what is going on in somebody's mind. So that's why we do it, really kind of focus 1 hour of everybody listening.
Yeah, that's a lot of interesting trigger words for me in it. So we also changed yesterday. We had yesterday a different sprint review. We have also a couple of different products, and you can always make a question mark on it. How useful is it that team A knows what team B is, because we don't have the dependencies what you described. in the products, but we changed yesterday also to a group sprint review of all the achievements from the last sprint, and the feedback from everybody was it's super valuable because they can then also learn from potential fails, or they can exchange solutions for specific problems, also when they are not direct product related, but they are maybe somewhere code base related because they're using similar libraries or whatever. Interesting. For the multitasking stuff, I strongly agree. I did in the last couple of weeks and months a lot of podcasts about multitasking, focusing on things and so on, and they went in some of these podcasts super deep into the aspect that when you multitask, you make stress for your brain. So also when you have the feeling that it works, it's a super stressful situation for your brain. And even thinking about multitasking is already this. So that's why I like your approach with computers, smartphones, and so on. They are not in the meeting room, put them away and focus on the
Only
meeting.
smartwatches are at the moment, although maybe we should get rid of those as well.
The last barrier. It was super interesting. In the one podcast they mentioned, and they measured it, that when people watching, they talked a little bit this classic private situation, you're watching a Netflix series or whatever, and then you have these scrolling through Instagram feed or whatever, TikTok feed, etc. So a lot of people doing it. And they measured the brain activities, and they measured it when they're doing it in parallel, and they figured out, okay, it's totally useless because you change your relaxed situation, watching a series or whatever, in a stress situation when you do both. And the interesting part is what they also measured is when people are not doom scrolling through the feed, but the smartphone is next to him, the brain has the same stress level. It only goes away when the smartphone is not reachable, because people thinking the whole time, okay, what could going on my feed, or I can do it. So, or somehow the brain is doing it. So it was super interesting.
I think there is also an article about like the values of, or the benefits of leaving the smartphone out of your bedroom. And I think it was related to the fact that even if you have it next to you, you still feel that, maybe I should check something. And I can't remember if I was telling it to my kids or somebody, but they said, but how do you wake up then? And I'm like, well, there is a different alarm clock as well, possible to use. And they were like, really? Okay, that's news. But actually I just today read an article about the use of AI in everyday work and how that will critically diminish the brain use of humans, and how we become much dumber over the long term of using it all the time in kind of more complex thought processes, and replace that with AI.
Yeah, that's an I see already we need to do a second episode of the podcast and talk about brain rot and AI and
neuroscience.
So on. Yeah. No, it's there are so many interesting aspects in it, and I'm also a heavy everyday AI user. I mean that I would easily say it increased my output. I don't know if I would call it productivity in some cases. Definitely my output is multiplied with 2 or 3 easily. So it's but yeah, but you're absolutely right. You think about thought processes are changing because you don't need to think about how I do research now for topic X, Y, Z.
Exactly.
But I'm a strong believer that I at the moment have the feeling that I learn much more as before. So I think there's also this usage process, because when I outsource research to ChatGPT of 3 topics, and then I take the time to reading it and taking the 80% what is useful and deleting the 20% which I can't use, it has a complete different input situation for me. I agree to your point. It is also a different way of consuming it. It goes more in a little bit in a fast food direction of consuming information.
Yeah, I mean, you said it that you still kind of critically evaluate the information that AI is giving, but I think we'll get there pretty soon when we don't anymore. We think that everything it says is pretty. I mean, there's of course hallucination, but we kind of go like, if AI said it will, well, must be right, and we don't maybe go on and do further research and find the rights and wrongs there anymore. So yeah, interesting anyway.
Good. So value delivery. I mean, we discussed the value delivery of AI already. So your answers also here, again, the metrics is a little bit weird, but you strongly agree to all the points here. So means you strongly agree that meetings, and I assume you reflected this now to your meetings with your team, that it helps to focus on the progress, also on the goals and so on, identifying new problems and changes. It also helps you or the team to understand the output of the colleagues when you need it and so on. So it looks like you're running the most efficient meetings in the world when you strongly agreed to this. Do you have besides a cheat that nobody is allowed to have a notebook smartphone in the meetings, do you have somehow tips where you say that was a game changer for me when I started to do in meetings X, Y, that?
I think we taking meeting notes and meeting minutes is something that that definitely helps us, because I mean, maybe I'm just old, but my memory is not as it used to be, and and I need to keep things written down for me. And I think it's a really good way to keep also on track of, what did you promise and what did you need, what somebody else did have to do, and did we achieve that? Because that's the only way we can really kind of see, okay, is the work progressing at all or not? And it might be because I'm not there. Like if I was there and I would hear it every day when I'm in the office, I would probably understand that, oh, okay, we already, everybody already knows where we are. Like we already know because we have lunch together or have coffee, or we casually ask what are you doing or what have you done. But since I'm not there, I need this overview all the time of like where somebody is and if they need help or not. And normally in these questions of like, do they need something or do they need support, you find out also what exactly is happening to the work and the progress that they're doing.
So meeting notes on the good old style, so not with AI tools, doing it by yourself.
A little bit with AI tools, like we have the transcriptors, of course, as well, but sometimes they are just so off, it's just funny.
Yeah. No, so I want to recommend already my tool, but your team has no notebooks in the meeting, so I can't recommend my app to you because you need a laptop for that. So
we have one laptop, so we can use that.
Yeah, so maybe then I need to create a feature first, how a whole team can work with one. Good. Perfect. So back from the meetings. I mean, the podcast is called Bring Your Own Direction, and you have chosen digital regulations. We talked already a lot about it in the beginning. But when we see now, let me ask this. So why have you picked digital regulations? So
because you asked me to bring a D word.
Good. Okay. So
because actually, I mean, to be fair, then when we talk about compliance and regulation, we actually look at software. So like I said, software as a medical device or complex software systems in the regulated industries. And there is a really nice book that I'm reading at the moment of Anu Bradford of Digital Empires. And it talks about regulations a lot and in politics and how it affects different countries. So there is EU has this rights regulation model that is basically about these personal rights, like we talked about data privacy. Then US has this market-driven regulations that is all about companies and innovations getting faster and kind of deregulating a bit, like what Trump is doing. And then the state-driven regulation, that is the Chinese model. So a really interesting book if somebody wants to read, is passionate about compliance, then that's a book to read. But it's also about this Cold War that is happening today, between China and US. Although the book says that EU is the most democratic of them all, because we are there for the small guys also, and we give the liberty to the companies themselves to be transparent, rather than telling them that, somebody goes and oversees that transparency. Then the real Cold War, of course, in technology is happening between China and the US.
Yeah.
Anyway, a very interesting book.
Yeah, no, it's
and that word, that digital regulation comes from that book, actually. And when I was reading it, I was like, that's the D word.
Okay, perfect. No, it makes totally sense, because it's at the Web Summit, there was also a huge AI discussion about also, again, the three powers what we have here at the moment: United States, Europe, China, and they discussed the potential regulations, but they were more on the side of that regulations are potentially really hard to execute, because what we said in the beginning, when Europe sets up some regulations, so why should US and China fit to it? And when you bring it, what you named as a Cold War now, what we have from regulations is also going more and more in an AI direction. And at the moment, we have a lot of conflicts in the world. It is a super interesting future topic, how we will deal as humans with that. So because
absolutely,
already now and in the future more, we can simply set up some AI agents for doing some bad things, and it scales massively. So the only limitation is computer and electricity at the moment. So I think this digital regulation thing is one of the next topics. I'm discussed it with some people, and I always brought the topic many years ago. I think it was in the 90s. Their normal fridge used there a very bad gas for our environment. It's an FCKW or something like that. And in a couple of months, it was worldwide not allowed to produce these fridges anymore, because they figured out, okay, that destroys the ozone stuff, blah, 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 in the environment. So that is the last time where I remember that humans said worldwide, we shouldn't do it because it brings us in a complete bad direction. And it was about a fridge. So I'm really looking forward to see what will happen in the future, because we are now talking about complete different things, and there need to be a.
But I think there is already a bit to this problem that DeepSeek, for example, was not allowed by, I think it was Italy, that said that this is already not in compliance with GDPR and data privacy laws. So DeepSeek cannot be used in Italy, but actually the same applies to most EU, because the GDPR it's not compliant with GDPR. And the same, I think there is a lot of these similar situations also between US technology firms going to China, and Chinese regulations having to, first of all, said that, you're not compliant with them, you can't come to China, and then having a workaround there. So it's already happening. I think that the companies are first, they either are fined or they are told to adhere to regulations, and then they can make a decision if they come to these countries or not.
Okay. So what would be your point when somebody asks you, okay, what is a good starting point besides your book recommendation? Because it sounds already like a really good starting point. But you explained in the beginning that regulation is a continuous process, and more and more software developers and organizations need to implement this in their processes to fit in the future to requirements from specific industries, or when they're dealing with medical devices, whatever. So what is, for a lot of organizations, it's always difficult. Okay, where should I start? So do you have somehow recommendation where you say, okay, when you as an organization want to start to think about regulations, then a good starting point is X, Y, Z? Do you have something like this?
Yeah, start with a why. Why bother? I mean, that's the most important starting point, because you have to have a reason. I mean, nobody's passionate about compliance just because of compliance, right? I mean, must be a reason why you're doing it. I mean, for regulated industries, of course, you can't put your product on the market unless you are compliant with whatever the regulation is. And even in there, you should do what is required. You should be lean. You should be actually doing what is necessary for your product to be safe, but also from the organization point of view, the minimum that is required from your organization. So you should never just get like the biggest standard in front of you and going like, okay, we're going to implement all the best practices suggested. So the idea is really to make the company more efficient, to make the processes, transparent, that they would be aligned with the goals of the standards or regulations. But it doesn't mean that you need to take it exactly detail by detail from a standard or regulation. So it has to work in your environment, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And when we talk about deregulation, there is, of course, a lot of value in the fact that it has to be lean. I mean, I wouldn't say that safety critical domains have to be deregulated. I'm completely against that, because I think we are going to put the safety of people then, at risk.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think we have to be leaner with that. I mean, we can have agile compliance, like you can integrate this to tools that you're using every day in the office. You can automate a lot of stuff. You can use the like we said, the different notifications and automation of review periods and things like that. You don't need to do it manually a lot of times. So there is a lot of tools out there that I think would, like SoftComply, that would help in this kind of leaner and more agile compliance process. But I would definitely say to everybody who just wants to know, what should we do as a non-regulated business in terms of compliance, I would first ask, why do you need to do it? Like, what is the goal there? Is it to increase your business? Is it a competitive advantage against a competitor that, may not have 27001? Or like in our marketplace, is it to retain the badge of a marketplace partner? It's all related to that, I would say. And if it is, if you see that this is a strategic organizational risk management, it is normally a part of the opportunities that you have. But a lot of organizational risks, of course, are either triggered because you want to understand where the money is going and
For
where
sure.
do you get more of that, or supplier management, or critical processes inside your organization that you want to get more understanding of. And that's where risk management comes to play a lot. And it doesn't need to be a certification process, and it doesn't require some auditor to come in, but it might help you understand what is happening in your organization without them as well.
Yeah, that's I mean, the why point is a good one. I mean, that's also a main reason why we as a Resolution hadn't done it for the last couple of years, because there was never a good answer for why should we do it. So it was not the case that we lost business or something like that because of a missing certification, and there were also not the risks that somebody will die because our software is not working.
Good.
So yes, so far, hopefully. The trigger point starting with the why makes totally sense. I think what I saw in the past is that also a lot of organizations haven't had a good answer to the why. And then it's also hard to, because you always needed the buy-in from the team as well. It's not that you hire one person, you are now the regulations guy, please fix it all for us. We are not part of it. So it needs an involvement from the whole team, and then you also
absolutely. And furthermore, in the regulated space where you are audited, the outsider cannot actually be in the audits. So the team has to take care of that. The knowledge needs to be inside the team.
Yeah. Good. Then let's jump to the next point. So I also asked you 3 more questions. I share quickly my screen again. So, I mean, you gave now an amazing starting point, a little bit playbook style. What should people first answer when they jump into the digital regulations or regulation topic? And you said, okay, find an answer for the why. I asked you, was an interesting challenge, what you have recently faced, where you couldn't find a good starting point or an existing playbook. And your answer is how to prepare, execute, and moderate a joint webinar. So tell us a little bit about this challenge.
First of all, Björn, I have to say that I admired what you have done. I mean, a lot of preparation has gone into this this podcast, I think, and with a questionnaire and all that, and that's very well done. I have been to different webinars, and like I said, I was also teaching. So for me, presenting is kind of easy. I would know how to do that, but for the first time, I actually moderated a joint webinar with several panelists. And the kind of the time it took to prepare, to think through potential answers to the questions that I had prepared, to know what is the flow of the of different panelists talking and answering and where to take it next, was much harder than I thought. And I thought it would have been really nice if somebody told that, okay, this is what you need to prepare, and these are the different ways you can go around, from one path to another, and make sure that every panelist has enough time to talk, and there is enough jokes that nobody would fall off the wagon in the audience, and keep it engaging. And so this was something that I really kind of missed and didn't find anywhere.
Is it? It's funny because I had last year I was 70 days traveling on a tour with a couple of other marketplace vendors, and we had always on ACE events panel discussion, which is a little bit similar to the situation. And you have in these situations often two types of characters. You have characters like myself, panel discussion, put me in, no prop, no, I don't read the questions, the preparation questions, I answer a talk on them. And then you have characters, they join a panel discussion or these joint discussions in a webinar more. When nobody else, I can do it, but I need the questions, I need to prepare it, and so on. So how have you dealt with these different types of characters with that? And was there somehow a preparation which helped you with that, or was it then just, okay, let's solve it on the fly?
I actually tried to share as much as possible beforehand. So because every question had a story or background, why we're asking it, what kind of popular cases it relates to in either medical device world or in other regulated industries, to bring also audience into the engaging part of also politics, of course. And I tried to prepare as many details in the question as possible, so that they would have at least a point that they could part of the question that they could answer or pick on. And I also tried to kind of prepare the path of like who I ask, but of course that kind of got mixed up in the actual webinar, because somebody said something and it went like, oh yeah, but I know that he knows more about this topic. So it kind of lived its own life in the end. But I tried to prepare as much, because like you say, many people are so different. Some people want to prepare all the details, and some people just want to see the overall gist of things and went like, okay, I can do that. And from the moderator point of view, I felt, I don't know if it is right. You can tell me from your experience of this tour that you had, that is it good to have many detailed questions in front or beforehand, or is it better if you don't see them?
Oh, it's I like it more when what you said. So when you have somehow this free flow dynamic, and a conversation starts or a discussion starts, and you have different opinions in a group. My feeling is, or what I like is when the questions are exactly triggering this. So it means in webinars or also panel discussions. Also, when I attend as an audience, I find it interesting when I have a couple of people there which are disagreeing to something, and having a discussion, and then best case scenario, they somehow find a common point where they agree again. And to answer your question, I think this is difficult to achieve with prepared questions. And but I'm totally the character. I love the discussion. I love the chat. And I know how hard it is for some others. And I think it's good to have both prepared to somehow match the requirements from the different characters. But then it's really the challenge for the moderator between prepared flow and the dynamic in the discussion. And yeah, that's a hot topic. It's difficult to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
The second question is, what did you face in the next 6 months? And so it's again a group activity, a little bit like a webinar. So your answer is organizing a compliance group at Team 25 in Anaheim. So what is it? Is that a group meeting of all the compliance passionists, or what is it? Tell us about.
Just me. No, it's actually the third time that I'm trying to get together this group of marketplace partners and solution partners that are either passionate about the topic or have clients in the regulated industries, or they are providing solutions for the regulated industries. So, like I said, I'm very passionate about sharing knowledge, and I think we have a lot of knowledge in the ecosystem that we should tap into. Like we should see who knows what can solve a type of compliance-related problem for a joint customer or somebody's customer, because I think there is a lot of knowledge in the ecosystem that is not always shared. And what I want to do is to kind of have this group together to share the different use cases and stories from either be it from the customer point of view or Atlassian's point of view of like, what is needed, what kind of, maybe something about the certificates that Atlassian has already acquired or is working towards, or some companies that have really complicated, safety critical systems that they need help with on top of Jira and Confluence. Who can provide it? Is it several partners together? Or, that kind of knowledge sharing is something that I want to do. And I have done it the last couple times, and I want to do it this time as well.
I mean, Disneyland is closed, so you can maybe meet in the Space Mountain or something. So, no.
The haunted hotel.
Exactly. So are you also planning to do brain dates to the topic? Because I did last time a brain date for stand-up meetings. It was also funny because people showed up and said, okay, is this a stand-up meeting haters group? So yes, you're right, but we're not calling it haters group. So, I mean, brain dates could be also super interesting for the topic, I think.
Yeah, but they are very small. The brain dates was only, 6 people. What, 5 people, 6 people? Yeah. That's very, very small, because I was hoping last year I think we had over 20 people, and it's a nice discussion of, like, again, like you said at the start, like compliance is such a wide topic. And I said, okay, let's just do all compliance. So we see what is everybody's, when somebody says compliance, what is the topic that comes to their mind, and what is the problem that the customers are having?
I mean, I'm absolutely happy to join your event when there's still space. So when people who are hearing the podcast and so on, when they are also interested to join you at Team 25 in Anaheim to this group meeting, is there still space, or is Space Mountain already busy?
Everybody can join. We just need to find a room for the 2 hours. So that's
okay.
the big challenge that I have at the moment, is to find the room somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, then good luck for that. If somebody has a room, you can ping Alex. Alex from now I've forgot the name, but with a podcast and so on, he's doing also together with a Jira guy. He is living 5 minutes from the conference center.
So his house.
Yeah, his house. That's not what I said, but maybe he has a recommendation for a room close by.
Good, so, I'll check with him.
I mean, when Alex can do a podcast out of it or a video, it's maybe really this house. Good. Okay. So the last question, where you're planning to be in 1 year. So your answer is you want to be better connected to solution partners to help more joint customers. So what is your is it more a forecast or is it a wish?
Both. I think both.
Good. That's good. So what's the motivation here for working closer with solution partners?
I think I think it's both. So on one hand, I think solution partners would benefit, of course, knowing what are the solutions out there that the app vendors are providing. But also on our side, it would be nice to get solution partners work with some of our customers, because we are not providing Jira and Confluence configuration or training. So I think the joint work would definitely help the most. And like I said, we do solutions have been doing solutions from day one. So doing joint solutions is definitely something that I would like to work more with solution partners and other marketplace partners as well. So creating solutions for different industries, be it medical devices, rail, mobility, aviation, that we are kind of in these industries quite heavily. And this is something that I will work on, and I hope to work more on.
Perfect. I'm sure I'm allowed to put your LinkedIn contact details into the show notes. Then when somebody's people interested in, first of all, having a room close to Disneyland, or joining the group, or working together with you, or understanding more about SoftComply, that he can reach out to you, he or she. Perfect. Marion, thanks a lot. It was an amazing chat. I learned a lot more about compliance. As I said in the beginning, it's not my beloved topic, but I always love to talk about.
But now it is
with you. Now it is, yeah. And now the passion is for compliance.
Well done.
Now, thank you very much for joining. And I really will think about that. We set up another show in a couple of months, maybe. And then we talk about brain rot and AI and the effects of this.
And these are really good books if somebody's interested in risk and safety critical stuff. Really perfect. Really interesting books to read.
Send me the link. I also put it in. Send me the titles of the book. I will put it in the show notes as well.
I will. Really perfect. Great books to read.
Marion, thank you very much. Thanks for being my guest today, and have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.